When Heather and Jimmy Bush heard that they were going to have a baby girl, they were overjoyed. After all, the birth of their first child had gone smoothly. But the second time around quickly became a different story.
They said, we feel there's actually a foot or the feet are in the birth canal, and there's just no turning back at this point.
Feet first aren't words that any expectant mother wants to hear. In Heather Bush's case, they were her baby's death sentence. She was less than 6 months pregnant when it happened.
And that's quite serious because at 23 and a half weeks, you're really at the limits of viability. Survival for the baby would be expected to be less than 5%.
Heather and her husband Jimmy were excited to be expecting another child, a sister for Camden. But one night, about 22 weeks in, Heather noticed some bleeding.
I wasn't expecting any trouble since I had never had any, and fear, which is, it's always been a big battle for me, worry and fear.
I was pretty clueless as to, how big a problem it was.
Heather's doctor put her on bed rest, but wasn't alarmed. So Jimmy went on a scheduled business trip to Japan.
Great, we're done. Now I can focus on work stuff and everything will be fine, just like Camden's was.
But everything was far from fine. A week later, Heather started bleeding again, and a friend rushed her to the hospital.
As soon as I got in there, things happened really quickly, and it was right when I got in, my water broke, and then they said, well, we need to examine you, and the feet are in the birth canal, and there's just no turning back at this point. So 23 weeks, we just, we can't even try to save the baby. There's not enough development.
That night was the worst of Heather's life. Her mom and friends came to comfort and pray with her.
They said when she's born, you can hold her and, just until she dies if you want, or we can help you with that, or however. But there's nothing that we can do. We won't take any life-preserving measures. And that, for me, was the absolute hardest, was just not, knowing that nothing was going to be done, that I just had to hold my baby until she died. And so, the biggest part of that was just that Jimmy wasn't there, and knowing that I was probably going to get to meet her and see her, and he never would. So it was really, really hard.
Jimmy booked the first flight home. He couldn't believe what Heather had told him.
That was when she really told me, the baby's probably going to be dead by the time you get off your next flight. I just right there, just hit my knees and, God, I can't deal with this. Just take this away from me. It's just helplessness, that I couldn't be there to help or really even be there to experience it with her.
Through tears, Heather and Jimmy named their daughter over the phone, Kaia May. Then Jimmy asked her to lower the phone so Kaia could hear Daddy's voice one last time. He sang, "Good night, sweetheart."
I would wake up and just feel, so sad that, no, this still has to happen. I still have to see my daughter die, and just that reality, that just made it a horrible night. I just kept, claiming those verses of, all things work together. That was the beginning. All things work together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And the other part I mentioned about, neither life nor death can separate us from the love of Christ. And just kept repeating those verses, just really gave me that sense of peace that, no matter what happened and no matter how sad I wasn't alone.
Morning came and Heather's doctor examined her. Then he said he wanted to do another ultrasound.
Just see her knowing that, she's soon going to be dead, was just unbearable to me.
The doctor called his partner in to take a look at the screen.
We were asked to evaluate her the next morning after she came in with her ruptured membranes. And at that point, her membranes had resealed. That's very unlikely to happen.
And when he looked at that ultrasound picture, she was not in breech position. Her head was down and there was plenty of fluid. And he just didn't know what to think and called, the other doctor in. And then they presented all this to me as I think he, held my hand and said, okay, we've got some news.
Heather couldn't wait to tell Jimmy when he called from the airport.
I did not want to make that phone call. I sat down and, it was great. That's my favorite phone I've ever used.
We don't know what's going to happen, but just thinking, this is going to be a miracle. This didn't happen for no reason, and something big is going on here.
The Bushes celebrated every week that went by, most of which Heather spent on bed rest. Kaia made it all the way to 40 weeks and a bit beyond. As the doctor said, the Bushes got their miracle.
As soon as he walked in, he said, "So I hear I get to deliver the miracle baby." And he said, "I've heard a lot about this one."
Probably less than 5% of patients that rupture in the mid-trimester will seal the membranes and reaccumulate the fluid, but that's indeed what she did.
The culmination of, so much prayer by that point. Plus she looked like me, so, I like that a lot.
Heather and Jimmy were each deeply changed by the whole experience.
We're not in control, and God is in control, and sometimes that just doesn't make any sense, how things play out and how things end up. But there is peace, and there is a way to hold on to your faith during whatever circumstance, no matter how it plays out and how what the ending to the story is.
This really taught me was just the power of having a community around you. They're praying for you and also just there for you.
He still works miracles, and he still does amazing things.
He still works miracles. He still does amazing things. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Now, how did he work miracles when he walked the earth? Well, he responded to faith. It's amazing how he always congratulates people's faith. And he praises it, and he says, "Your faith has made you whole." And then he says, "You just need a little. And if you have the faith of just a little mustard seed, you can move big mountains. You can see big miracles." That's all it takes. We want to put so many things into that, and we want to work for it, or earn it, or do things for it. No, it's just believe. Believe on the one that he sent. That's what God says to us. And he says today, just believe in Jesus, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Let him be your faith. And when you've got him, you've got all the faith you need.